Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is another court card. You're getting to have a pretty royal family hanging around you here the last couple days. And this is the King of Bows and the Adder. And, thinking about this card today, I was like, okay, we've got a king, we got a queen, we got two knights. Stones being the financial piece, the logical reasoning with a hawk, coming up with some quick plans, some quick thinking possibly, maybe some quick action. And now we've got the King of Bows. And we talked about him, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. And, this King of Bows, this adder is all about, taking charge of what's going on, taking charge of your actions, taking charge of, moving forward, right? He's also very symbolic of magical power and healing. So if you've got some healing that needs to be done, whether it's physical or psychological, mental, all right, you can talk to him, or, somebody like him, which we'll get into here in a little bit, that can help you heal, all right, and help you see, the right path to go down, okay? This king is a leader in action as well, where, the air sign with the arrows is all about logic and reasoning. The bows is all about, creativity, action, okay? And this king is he rules action. He rules that kingdom of action. So anytime you go into his realm, okay, it's, there needs to be action moving on. Why are you here? Where are you going? This, that, and the other thing. Those are some of the questions that he would ask you if you're coming across that. But, if you think about that, I think about, what's coming to mind right now is that rattlesnake. Is as soon as you step near his territory, you hear that rattle, and when he's ready to strike, he's going to strike. That's the action that this adder has. This also is if it's a person or somebody that's a mentor in your life, somebody's going to be very charismatic, very attractive, a very mature leader. All right, they're going to have that strong resolve, high energy and wisdom. And all the court cards have wisdom and have knowledge on what's going on, okay? But with this adder, the leadership's unchallenged. Nobody challenges, okay, what he's got to say in his, in his kingdom. And, the thought that just came to mind as well is all four kings, okay? I don't want to say they defer to the King of Bows, but, they look toward him, for that mentorship, for that guidance, all right? Because he's going to be quick to action. He's going to be letting them know, hey, this is the way we ought to go, all right? He's going to show you, this adder is going to show you the direct path on, and help you get to where your goals need to be on this spiritual path. Now, with the court cards, I like to talk about the different characteristics. If this is a person or you, take on this aspect, it's going to be somebody who's very honorable. It's going to be someone who stands out in a crowd. And I'm not saying flashy, all right? It's just the way they hold themselves, okay? Like a royalty for, person that you can just look over and say, wow, there's an air about him or her that I really like, right? If this is an aspect on their characteristic, it's putting, their touch on things. Let's, look at a project and you take it to, your boss and, hey, what do you think about this, that, and the other thing? Your boss may take on that adder mentality and say, you know what, I would tweak it a little bit like this, or I tweak it a little bit like that. And I think I've used this analogy before. It's, here you are turning in a paper at college, going to your professor and have him reread it, and he's going to give you some recommendations. That's kind of the aspect of what you're looking for. Somebody to put that finishing touch on your project or, within that relationship, whatever. Somebody that's assertive and, can be entrusted, with what you have. And then if this is an event, it's establishing a position, all right, and taking a stand. And we seen that yesterday with this Knight of Arrows, is taking a stand in what you believe in, right? Looking far out, to reach that goal, and kind of has some, deep, long-range planning. That's a creative piece of what this adder brings. And, looking at the rest of the cards here, You know, we had that guardian about a week ago, and you face those fears, you face those doubts, you walk through, you didn't have that, you know, the light, but, you know, as you were going through that mental challenge of facing your fears, the psychological challenge, maybe even, you walked out to the other side. And the card that just fell off is the Five of Stones, Endurance. But there's a storm on the horizon. And, you know, I'm not saying that the storm is one that's going to, you know, be an obstacle or a challenge. But what's happened is you've got, you know, the spiritual path right now has plateaued. And when I see a plateau on a spiritual journey or spiritual path, that just shows me that, okay, we've been growing, we've been learning, we've been gaining wisdom. Now it's time to apply that. And how do we go about doing it? Whether that's in a relationship, whether that's with a career path, projects, you know, creativity, finances, however you want to look at it. You know, and let's just take finances, because, you know, right now the world is kind of in a, you know, financial funk, let's just say. And, you know, looking at what's going on, you know, we still have the generosity down here. Maybe what's happening is you're turning within, you're saying, you know what? I need to wait a little bit. I can still be generous in other areas, but with my finances, I'm going to be tight. Okay, I'm going to be tight because right now the feather weighs the same as the gold pieces. All right, and I don't really want to give up what I have because I may not have it for, you know, the rainy day. And that's a good perspective to take by looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I need to, you know, maybe I need to cut back on, you know, going to my coffee place, right? Keep that money in my pocket a little bit and use my resources differently, right? The Knight of Stones comes along. He says, hey, we're going to carry you on this journey. And he's a mentor, all right? And he's going to say, you know, how is stubbornness holding you up? Or where can you push on to the finish? All right? Maybe that finish is saying, you know, let's use that financial. The finish is just to get through whatever's going on. And if I save a little bit now, you know, I can look towards maybe the end of April or maybe going into May. And if things are better, then I can go back to that coffee shop, right, and get my favorite coffee. The Queen of Bows is also there, you know, or the Queen of Stones, I should say, is there, and she's very protective. So maybe, you know, with that $5 that you have, yeah, you're very protective of what's going on with it because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. But she's got it protected, okay? And she's asking you, how can you make space for other things? Or, you know, what needs to be preserved? By preserving some of those $5, all right, you can use it towards something towards the end of the week or, you know, the end of the month. You know, if you save up $5 for, you know, a whole month, that's $150. You know, and that's, you know, that accumulates after time, right? And this Knight of Arrows, this hawk, he's saying, you know what? That's a good plan, all right? Let's fly around, okay? That's good logic reasoning, all right? And let's be quick to act. When we see opportunities, when we see things are on sale, that's where we can spend our finances, all right? Even if it's going to the dollar store, right? And, you know, sponges, you know, 6 for $1 or something like that. It's like, boom, I'm buying them, right? Or, you know what, I'm going to cut back on chips, right? Or I'm going to cut back on donuts. And, you know, all of a sudden the dollar store's got a sale going on with them. You know, buy 2 packs for, you know, $1 or something like that. You know, that's where you can act on it. And this King of Bows, you know, he wants you to take charge. You know, where do you need to take charge? And maybe that's with the family, sitting them down and saying, look, you know, this is how we're going to treat April. If you guys want to go on that vacation, all right, no more Starbucks for you, no more Tim Hortons for you, no more McDonald's for you, all right? Let's take that money, put it into a pool, and then when we get to Florida and we're at Orlando or something like that, then we can use that money to, you know, to buy you that wand from Harry Potter or, you know, that Mario go-kart, whatever it is. Right? That toy. And, you know, by looking forward and taking charge on that and putting things in perspective, okay, you're also doing that, in a preserving way. You're doing that in a sure-footed way, right? And you're also, kind of foreseeing a little bit about the future. As that hawk flies around, it's just not looking in the area underneath. It can see things far away, and it can pick things up. So you're kind of doing a little foreseeing, in the future with what's going on. And then the other thing that this adder asks is, where is your enthusiasm leading you? Listen to your intuition. Listen to what the other court cards are saying, because I can guarantee you, as you're taking your time on your path right now, right? The horse is there with you, the bear is there with you, the hawk's flying up ahead, and now this adder, slithers up next to you and says, you know what? Let's go at a nice pace. Let's continue our journey forward, all right? And the four of us are going to be mentors for you as you're moving forward, all right? Mentors in your finances, mentors in helping you with your cognitive ability, mentors for you in your creativity. And you know what? Even though we don't have any water going on here, we're going to help with the emotions, So let's just stay calm, let's stay focused, and let's just move, at a nice steady pace where it's not, it's not fast, it's not quick, it's not slow. It's, the horse is carrying us through. So that's the message for today out of the Wildwood Tarot deck, the King of Bows and the Adder. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and give me a thumbs up. And this is D for Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Stay safe, everybody.